A space for us.
Un espacio para nosotras.
Un espace pour nous.
Accountability Council is a global nonprofit organization or non-governmental organization that supports communities that have been negatively impacted by internationally financed projects to defend their environmental and human rights. We specifically help them use non-judicial grievance mechanisms, also known as independent accountability mechanisms, found at financial institutions to receive justice and remedy for the harms that they've received. We also have a policy team that works to strengthen accountability policies at institutions and public development banks, and also works to create accountability mechanisms. We lastly have a research team that looks at trends across the accountability space and at different institutions, and holds a database of all the complaints filed to accountability mechanisms over the last almost 30 years. Public development banks aim to address the world's most pressing problems when it comes to development, climate, and other issues. And I feel that this is impossible without engaging directly with the communities and the organizations most impacted by these issues, who have the expertise and the local knowledge on what can really be effective for addressing development needs. And so public development banks must cooperate with civil society organizations, both local, regional, international, and keep communities at the center of their work. This includes in developing projects in the project pipeline, so funding local priorities. It includes consultations and free prior informed consent, so respecting the right of local groups and communities to accept a project or even reject a project if that's their priority. And then it also includes accountability to communities and civil society organizations for any impacts that may come from projects. So as many have seen over the last few years, we're currently operating in a civil society space, or a civic space rather, that is closing. So it's becoming even harder for communities, for civil society organizations, for human rights defenders to defend their rights and to engage on issues and speak their mind on the pressing issues that affect them. And so I think this context is very important for public development banks as they do their work to understand the context and also respect communities' rights to speak out and use the leverage that they have to engage with governments and others to ensure that that space is there. The context is also one of where many communities do not have access to justice if there's a harm that stems from projects. And so at Accountability Council, we are working to ensure that wherever a project is financed by a public development bank, there's a corresponding accountability mechanism that is available to address the harms that may occur from projects. I want to see public development banks make a strong commitment to respecting human rights in the course of their work. And I know that a lot of institutions say that they're respecting human rights, but we've seen on the ground that the impacts of projects can have devastating effects. And that usually occurs when rights are not respected. So I want to see, especially coming out of this summit, a strong commitment to human rights, a strong commitment to accountability for the projects that public development banks are financing. And so I believe that all public development banks should either have their own accountability mechanism or sign up to another accountability mechanism so that communities can raise concerns about projects. Essentially, the goal of the collective work should be to ensure that communities have a voice and that their priorities are being listened to and that they are at the center of development.
A space for us.
Un espacio para nosotras.
Un espace pour nous.